welcome to another edition of Thought Leaders Live, where we talk with thought leaders in business, life, and all points in between. Today, I'm joined by Charlie Levin, author, publisher, and founder of Munn Avenue Press, where he helps leaders, entrepreneurs, and creatives bring meaningful stories into the world. Charlie, thanks for joining us.
I'm delighted to be here, Greg. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So, in the show description, we talk about how the most influential leaders do not lead with credentials alone. They lead with stories that create meaning, connection, and clarity. So today we're going to talk about leading by story, turning life experience into impact. And Charlie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your own life experience and what led you to create Munn Avenue Press?
Sure. I'll tell you that as a story.
Hey, how about that?
It's funny about stories, and I will answer your question, but I've done a fair amount of public speaking, and if you're an effective public speaker, you're looking at your audience all the time to see if they're, awake, right?
Right.
And if I see people drifting off, I say, let me tell you a story. And then everybody perks up because we
Yeah.
love stories. And some years ago, I read a book called Managing by Storying Around. And the whole book was about how, as a business leader, how to effectively use stories to convey your message. So back to my story. I've had 5 different careers, and they haven't been short ones either. I mean, I spent I went to law school, decided I didn't want to be a lawyer. I actually have a degree in philosophy and ancient Greek, which people are surprised by.
Wow.
And I had the opportunity even to go on. I had a free ride to go on to get an advanced degree in that. I was really into it. I enjoyed it. I think it stood me well in life and business to see perspectives from both sides. But I was newly married at the time. We used to get married young in those days. And my wife said, you're not going to make any money doing that. So the default in my family, if you didn't know what to do after college, you went to law school. I have a family full of lawyers. So I realized I didn't want to do that. I ended up in a family business, my wife's family business, which I loved. And we did great things for 20 years. And I learned that I really love to sell stuff, and retail is just a great training ground for that. And after I sold my interest in 1995, the internet was just peeking its head on the horizon. And I'm a closet nerd. I'd done programming. I had even hand programmed an inventory system for that retail business. And I went to a conference in Boston in 1995 where a guy named Richard Seltzer was describing, what you could do with this World Wide Web. And all kinds of lights went off in my brain that, hey, if I could sell stuff without all the real estate costs and the labor costs, that would be nirvana. Well, obviously, it's not that easy, but if you get it right, like Amazon has, it can be hugely effective. So unlike my previous business where we had a very logical strategic plan, we wanted to grow 20% a year and so forth. It was like, I just want to play in this game. I have no idea where it's going to go. And I started a little consulting business that morphed into an internet development business that I also ran for 25 years. And we did a lot of corporate websites, and not brochure sites, but interactive e-commerce transactional sites. We were one of the first to connect a website to an IBM AS400 in the back room to manage transactions before IBM got on the train.
Wow.
and we had many good clients. We did a lot of retail sites because I understood retail and selling. Um, we sold jewelry, jeans, um, books, toys, all kinds of stuff. Um, and we even did some work for the UN. I got a call out of the blue from Dell Computer who wanted us to build an application, which we did, and then worked with Intel. And we were a little, we had eight people at the time, eight full-time people, programmers and marketing and designers. And I said to the contact from Dell, I said, don't you have like a department that handles this stuff? And he says, yeah, but they take 6 months to do it, and we did it in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Um, so that was a fun, really good business, and I was winding that down about 10 years ago, and I always wanted to write a book. And I love the thriller genre. And my first book is called Not So Dead. I should pull the copy of
Yeah,
that.
let's see it.
Um, I got here's yeah. There's a few, but there's 4 books in the series. This one's got all kinds of marks in it, but it's not so dead. Um, and it has a technology thread in it, but it's not. It's for a general audience. And the thing that inspired me was I had read an article maybe a dozen years ago about how Google was investing billions of dollars in being able to digitize your brain and upload it to the cloud so you could live virtually forever. And I thought, well, what could go wrong with that?
Yeah.
And that led to that story. And it happens that whole concept has evolved quite a bit over the last several years. Um, and I had no idea if anyone would like the book or anything. I just wanted to do it. Um, and like anything I do, I really get into it and I study it. Um, and I wrote the book, and I had 9 interested agents in the book, which was exciting, and one that I kind of liked because I thought you could sell the book. That's what agents do. And I didn't know anything about publishing otherwise at the time. So as you can see, I have some gray hair and I'm a little older. And I said, if we work together, how long will it be before this book sees the light of day? And she said, well, about 2 years, which is what the average is for traditional publishing. It usually takes about 6 months for an agent to sell a book on average. Sometimes they never do, sometimes it's shorter. And then the whole traditional publishing process is like sludge. I mean, it just takes a long time. And I'd spent several years on that first book, and it was like, no, I just don't have the patience for that. I got to figure out how to do it some other way. And I have a good friend who's builds websites for authors, and he was very helpful. And I essentially independently published the book. And I didn't know if anyone would like it, but when I got my first 5-star review from somebody who wasn't a friend or relative, I said, okay, that's it. It's official.
Cool.
Um, and I was so in love with the characters in that first book, I felt I owed it to them to write the second book. So I started working on the second book in the mornings. And in the afternoon, I would, being the geeky guy I am, work on figuring out how to decode Amazon's algorithm so I could sell a lot of books, which I did. So all 4 in this Not So Dead series were Amazon #1 bestsellers in multiple
Wow.
categories. The first book sold over 100,000 copies.
Wow.
Um, and somewhere around book 3, my friend who builds websites for authors, and if you need one, it's authorbytes, bytes.com. By the way, my books are on charleslevin.com. um, he came to me and said, "Well, you know, you've done so well with your first few books. I have a couple of authors who could use some help." This was about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll talk to him. I have a consulting background. I figured if I can replicate what I did for my books for other authors, that could be a good thing." Uh, and there was not. This was a totally accidental business, unplanned. And flash forward over the last 2 years, we've worked with over 100 authors in 11 countries. Um, and it's a blast. I mean, I'm meeting these incredibly interesting people from all over the world, and we're doing for them just what I did for myself, and they're happy. And many, if not most of them, have been bestsellers in multiple categories, and one of them was a number three on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list for all books. It's a book called The Pyramid Puzzle, which is a business parable book. And as an example, here's one we published a couple of months ago, which is just totally fascinating, called Tales from the Ends of the Earth. And it's written by Todd Gustafson, who created 4 PBS documentaries on Africa. And it's a combination of memoir and his amazing photography of wildlife in Africa.
Wow.
He's an American who grew up in Tanzania, um, and his bent is towards conservation, but the color photos and everything in here, as well as his remarkable story, is amazing. Um, and that's nonfiction. We do fiction and nonfiction. Here's a totally different thing we published like 2 weeks ago: how to stay sane
Perfect.
while robots steal your job, eat your job. Uh, and it's written by a therapist who's seeing a lot of people with AI anxiety.
Oh, for sure.
Uh, but he does it in he has such a wonderful voice in his writing. He does it with humor and also with ideas for how to minimize the anxiety and how to turn this into an opportunity versus a problem.
So, Charlie, thanks for sharing those and the background. I can sit here all day and talk about all the different people you've published. I just find it so fascinating. Let's, but let's talk a little bit about what it takes to publish and promote your own story. And I think probably, I'm ghostwriting books now. I think that for a lot of people, they can't even get out of the starting blocks. And there's a big, first of all, how do I write the book and get it done? So maybe you could talk about that. And then then they're just afraid about, well, okay, I have no idea how to publish, especially self publishing seems like a really daunting task.
Well, yeah, good question, Greg. The uh, trying to do the publishing process on your own is generally a mistake. The reason it's a mistake is it's way more nuanced than people realize. And we've taken over projects where an author has started. But if you want to actually sell books, there's a lot of strategy behind how you write an Amazon page description so you can sell books, how you target the best possible categories for your book, and keyword phrases. A lot of people think of Amazon we'll take Amazon as an example. I mean, we sell our books worldwide, everywhere, but Amazon is obviously the big seller. And a lot of people think of Amazon as an online store that sells books and other things, right? But it's really more like Google that sells books and every other things. It's that search box at the top. So if people are searching on business memoir or wildlife in East Africa or AI anxiety, how does Amazon determine what books are going to come up? And they have an algorithm, just like Google has an algorithm. And what affects that algorithm? Well, Amazon wants to sell books and make money, right? So if your book is selling, they're going to show it more in searches. If it's getting more a flow of positive reader reviews, they're going to show it more. When the book is brand new, they're going to tend to show it a little bit more. So what we do is we know how to work those algorithms so that the books, your books, my books, come up more in searches. And if we can get it to be shown a lot where people are searching, um, then you'll likely sell it more. We also do Amazon ad campaigns for our authors. So we can target similar books or search phrases that will get your book shown. And I, as a marketing guy, I've tested lots of other things. I mean, I tried Facebook ads every which way, and I got lots of likes and comments, and it wasn't that great. But Amazon ads, and we do a special kind of promotion on Amazon too, where we send out 1 million+ emails to promote the book. But Amazon ads, when you think about it, people who are searching for books, they're in the market to buy a book. When they're scrolling Facebook,
Right.
they want to see what their friends' kids are doing or whatever.
Right.
But they're in the market to buy a book, and maybe they're looking. I write in a thriller genre, so maybe they're on a page and they're looking at a John Sanford book, and my ad pops up. Oh, that looks interesting. They click on it, brings them to my page. It's frictionless.
Yeah.
Then they read my Amazon description. They see I have 360 reader reviews that are all, mostly positive. Okay, click the buy button. That's how it works.
That behavior, I mean, for me when I'm buying books, I'm always like, I know what my title is. I know what I'm going to go in there and do. I think we underestimate how many people are browse or can find books like the method you're talking about, because actually knowing what you want to read or what you should read next, that that isn't that doesn't always happen. There is a lot of times I'm like, geez, what am I going to read now? So in your experience, there's a lot more people, seems like, who are buying books in the exact manner you're describing.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I mean, it's like I'm, you know, pre-internet, and I still do it from time to time. I'll walk into a independent bookstore, Barnes and Noble, and
Yeah,
walk the aisles.
love it.
I found many great books that way,
Yeah,
life-changing books, in fact.
yeah.
So, um, yeah. And then from an author standpoint, it's really interesting. The first question when I speak to an author for the first time, like this afternoon, I have a call with a prospective author. First question is, what's your goals for the book? And like for me on my first book, I didn't expect to make $1 million. My goal was to be read. I had a story to tell. I wanted to know people were reading it. And I certainly achieved that goal. And then you have business people who are maybe consultants. We have a number that books we've written for consultants or people that do public speaking. And a book is a great kind of calling card and validation of your expertise, right? Um, so, for example, we published this book like a week ago called Pregame, A Winning Mindset.
Hold it. It's getting a little glare.
Okay,
Oh, there you go.
there it is.
Nice.
And this is by Sherry Levin, and she was a basketball player. She holds the high scoring record for all time at Holy Cross in women's basketball, but she
Wow.
became a high school basketball coach, and several of her players went on to be WNBA stars.
Wow.
Now, I've read a lot of books on leadership, and many of them, it's the same story. But this was really unique. This is all based on 24 locker room speeches that she gives to her players.
That's so awesome.
It's really fascinating, and it's a great book. And she wants to get speaking engagements, and she will. And then also, if you do have a speaking engagement, you bring your book along and sign your book. She has this Saturday Holy Cross. This is Women's in Sports Month, and they have a big game at Holy Cross, and she's going to have a table there with her books, and she's a an alumna, so they're going to feature her on the jumbotron and pitch
Awesome.
her book, and it's that's all really kind of fun and exciting.
Charlie, let's circle back to this for a second. I mean, I remember reading this quote from somebody who said, everybody has an interesting story to tell. And if it's told with specifics and with authenticity, it will be interesting. We're talking about the value of story. Do you see that in all the books that you're coming? I mean, everybody's got their own unique world in that story to tell. Do you think that's true?
Oh yeah, and I value a lot what you do with ghostwriting, because not everybody has a flair for writing, um, especially in the nonfiction world. The fiction writers generally have their own story in mind, and many
Sure.
of them have a writing background. And but in nonfiction, business people are very busy, um, and we get referrals from a number of ghostwriters who, like, they've written the book and what happens next, and it's still their story. And if you're effective, as I know you are, Greg, you interview them and you capture their voice. And if you can convey that and tell the story in an interesting way, then it can make a good book. Here's one that's a fun example. This is a memoir, and I don't know if you can see the
I,
title,
I sure can.
but it's called "Asshole," a memoir, right? Um, and it's a true story of a music business executive who realized after a number of years that he truly was an asshole. And it's very self-reflective, and he changed his life. The other thing is, I'm showing you a CD case because we do audio books and can publish books on CDs. Now, people say, CDs, who listens to CDs? Well, libraries are big buyers of CDs because
Oh,
people still, my wife does, she gets CDs out of the library and throws them on a CD player in the kitchen when she's in the
sure.
kitchen. Um, the other thing I learned from one of the wonderful people who works with me is her daughter is like 15 years old. On her Christmas list was a CD player. They're coming back, just like
Yeah.
vinyl came back, CDs are coming back. So,
Yep.
and I'm a big believer in audiobooks because the audiobook market's growing at 20% a year, whereas the ebook and print market is maybe 3 to 5%.
Wow. I do have to say that that audio book is really important. I ghost wrote a book, a memoir for a guy, and I think what was really amazing was, and I didn't even know he did it. He did the audio book. He read it himself, and I listened to it, and I mean, I was ghostwriting it for him. It was his story, but it wasn't my work at all. I When I heard his voice reading that story, it was him telling it telling it in his words. Suddenly it just transformed everything. And I thought, this is such an amazing gift for his family. His legacy is preserved now with his voice and his story. It's an amazing combination.
Yeah, and it's part of the reason it's so gratifying. Why I'm really loving what we do is that for many people, publishing a book is a dream or a bucket list item. And we help them realize that dream. And similar to your story, we had almost all our clients are not local to me. I'm in New Jersey, but I have one guy nearby. He's a 90-year-old guy, and he wrote this A Great American Love Story. And it's a short book. It's like 50 pages long. And he said, to me, what can I do with this? And the book was been out for a few years, and it had no reviews, and maybe his family was buying it, which was part of his goal. But we ran a campaign, and right away he got 15 reviews that were very positive. The book is selling, was a number one paid bestseller for a few days in a couple of categories. And we did his audio book, and we recorded it in his home. Most of the time we're doing it in his studio, but he's 90. He's still, got all his marbles. And I went to the recording session, and just like you, sitting there hearing him tell his story. And then at the end, like Chris, who's my audio engineer, does my podcast. By the way, if you check out the Munn Avenue Muse podcast on YouTube or Substack or Apple or Spotify, you can hear interviews with authors. But Chris was in tears at the end. I mean, it was just so emotional and
Yeah.
wonderful. And that's coming out like this week on Spotify, and soon it'll be on Audible and iTunes and elsewhere.
So it's so awesome and it's so exciting. Tell me a little bit about the role of the writer in the marketing, because you're talking about distribution. It's such an invaluable part of the whole publishing process that you're talking about. And I think people have this concept of I publish it and then what? And I mean, I think what you're doing is so critical to getting the word out. What role do you see? I mean, I think a lot of writers are like, I love to write and then I hate the marketing, but there's some degree of like, what can the writer do after it goes to publication? I mean, you're out there, you're working the Google or the Amazon algorithm, you're running ads. What do you see the role of the writer in terms of marketing and distribution?
Well, I think the writer, another good question, the writer can really make a big difference if they're proactive in getting it out there. Like some writers are already active on social media, so they can post on social media. I've referred several of our authors to a great social media person we work with at badredheadmedia.com.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and she, yeah, you know her. Yeah, she does a great job. But like Sherry Levin, the high school basketball coach, she's doing a live event this weekend. I
Yeah.
still do half a dozen live events a year myself. So what I like to say is, and I say to authors, it's not any one thing that's going to knock it out of the park, but it's 1,000 little things done well. So anything the author can do to promote himself or herself, in addition to the things we're able to do, um, collectively will create momentum for the book.
Yeah, and that's Rachel Thompson at Bad Redhead Media, uh, who actually is. I came across her years ago when I first started writing, and she introduced me to you, Charlie. So go check out badredheadmedia.com because Rachel's been doing this for a long time. She's really good at helping writers get the word out, like you just
Sure.
mentioned. So tell me, if somebody's, we're getting near the top of the hour here. Um, if somebody wants to publish their own book, is interested, whether they're, they've got a story and it's written, even if they don't have a story, I think that was one other thing I was going to ask you is before you even begin the work, you're getting manuscripts that are finished pretty much, or they're nearing completion, I'm assuming, and then you've got to go sell it. Is there work that can be done prior to that to like really think, okay, how do I deliver the best book for my market and my goal? Is there work that can be done before they get to you that makes your job easier?
No, well, yeah, and it's an interesting question because we like to start earlier with people. I'll tell you the most extreme case. We did a book last year called the House of Oz Undone, and it's a kind of modern take on the Wizard of Oz with political overtones. But we actually contracted to publish that book before she wrote the first word,
Awesome.
because we went to work on the cover and the Amazon description and the categories and the keywords. She was fast. So, like within 2 months, she had written the book. And it's not a long book, but it's
Sure.
quite terrific. Um, we had all those things pretty much in order. So then it was a matter of we will do whatever degree of editing is required. Many manuscripts are in good shape when they come from a capable ghostwriter like you, Greg. And then some need more help. We proofread everything we do. And then we do cover design and interior design. And I when I decided to do the books on my own, I said, I want our books to look as good or better than the top five New York publishers do. So we make sure both the covers, we have some fantastic designers, and then we adapt elements and fonts from the cover to design the interior. And then while we're working on the manuscript and polishing that up, when that's ready, we combine the design with the interior, with the final manuscript, to produce the production ready, print ready, ebook ready book. And then we proofread it again because we want to minimize the possibility of stray typos or formatting issues.
Sure.
And then we publish both on Amazon and Ingram. Ingram distributes to everywhere Amazon isn't. So, like Barnes and Noble, your local bookstores, libraries. And as of last count, over 1,000 websites around the world will automatically display the books we publish on Ingram.
Wow.
Um, and it was an interesting discovery for me because we published a book last year in the Netherlands, and the author said, oh, the biggest seller of books in the Netherlands is not Amazon. It's a site called bol.com, BOL.com. I had never heard of it. So I go on bol.com, and all my books are there, and all our authors' books are there. And in Germany, it's thalia.com. And in Denmark, it's saxo.com. And all our books are there.
Wow.
The Africa book, the Todd was very interested in, is that book available in Tanzania? Well, guess what? It is. So certainly Amazon, we're covering the 20 plus countries Amazon is in, but Ingram gets us to 100 plus countries
It's
around
incredible.
the world.
That's incredible. And like you said, distribution is so important. I love the fact that they worked with you earlier. When I'm working with, I feel like a lot of people don't think about who their audience is. Todd Satterson had a great line. He said, and it's a great book, every book is a startup. And he thought about it in terms of like, especially in a business book side, if you're writing a book, what problem are you solving? And I think if you can frame it more like that when you're coming into your book, then you got a sense of who your audience is, and you've automatically built in that kind of positioning statement. It's probably a smarter move and can help you sell more.
Well, that's a very good question to ask. Another one too is I'm co-authoring now a book with a famous psychiatrist on dementia and aging. And one of the first questions I asked, and it's targeted at caregivers. We interviewed 20 plus caregivers about what they had learned, what they would do differently, that kind of thing to help caregivers. I said, before we undertake this, let's research the market and see, is this book going to give people something different than's already out there?
Right.
Because, I don't think we want to go rewrite the Da Vinci Code, or something
Yeah.
like that. With And we found, okay, we've got a really good niche here that's underserved in terms of the caregiver. This is worth doing, and here's how we're going to do it. And this is what we're going to bring to the table that's different than is what's out there.
Love it. Yeah.
Because sometimes it's better to say, it's particularly in nonfiction. Fiction's its own
Yeah.
thing, but in nonfiction, to say, is this worth my time and expense to do this? Am I going to publish a book that people are going to want to read?
Yeah.
I'm not going to write another good to great, but maybe I've got an angle on. We did niche kinds of books, like we did a book called Master Your Exit Plan by Chris Vanderzijde. And it's specifically on how to sell your business, but also how to live your life after you sell your business. That is serving a particular niche.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be writing, general business nonfiction. You can have, your particular niche.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh,
Charlie, we're at the top of the hour. If someone wants to get a hold of you, work with you in Munn Avenue Press, how do they do it?
well, good question, but that's the best question yet. Do reach out to me at Munn Avenue Press.com. There's a contact us link. If you click that link and just fill out a simple form, I'm happy to talk with you at any stage that you're in development of your book. I talk to a lot of authors early to help give them direction or say, hey, you need Greg to work with you on this book. Um, because I like to, that's my way of giving back. I like to encourage people to write and get it done. I think one of the biggest challenges, and you probably have this too, Greg, there's a lot of people who say, oh, I have an idea for a book, but they don't follow through. And it's a, an elite group. It's a small percentage that actually follow through and get the book done. And I'm happy to help those people that have a story or have a message. And if they contact MunnAvenuePress.com, we'll talk about it to see if we can help.
Kudos to you for doing that. And you are a published author. There's something I always say to people who are thinking about writing a book is like, you just do it, because there's this unparalleled feeling of seeing your book finished